Hello, everyone. Welcome. Super special session today with Beatriz Macedo. I'm so excited to do this live stream with Bia. So, Beatriz just matched into radiology at Emory University. So, I'm going to jump right in because you guys don't want to listen to me. You want to Let's get right into it. Let's see if I can have Beatriz join here. Beatriz, I'm accepting. Hopefully, it will work out on your end. There we go. Hey, Beatriz. How are you?
I'm great.
How
How
are
are
you?
you, doctor?
I'm good. Can you hear
Hello.
me okay?
Yeah, yeah. Right now I can.
I'm honored to talk to you, Beatriz. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. I'm really honored. Really excited.
Well, so let's start with a quick introduction. Tell everyone where you're from and what you're gonna do start July 1st.
So I'm from Brazil. Um, as I said, as Dr. Renderson said, I matched into diagnostic radiology at Emory, and I'm going to be starting there for my transition year, which we got to take before radiology.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. This is such a historic match. I mean, most people know this, but just for the people who don't, Emory is one of the best universities in the United States. I'm sure it was at the one of the top programs in Beatrice's list. And radiology is super competitive. So she not only matched, but in a very competitive specialty, in a very competitive program. And she's going to tell us the journey into doing that. So Beatrice, when did you, let's go over like how you built this super awesome application. Like tell folks like when did you start thinking about residency in the United States? Like at what point in your career?
Uh-huh. So I've always liked the US. Ever since I was a kid, I would visit there and I would really like the culture. Always listen to a lot of American music and I'm definitely very, very, very into music. But it wasn't until when I was in my high school. So I did an exchange program. I lived in Texas for nearly a year, and that was the experience ever. I didn't want to return back then, but yeah, so it was after to return because I wanted to come back to Brazil to do med school,
Okay.
and it was like what, yeah, yeah, it was what made me completely change my mind and decide to return to the U.S. for residency later.
So during medical school, you started, it sounds like you had an idea pretty early on that you wanted to do residency in the United
Yeah,
States. Is that right?
yeah,
O-
exactly. It was something always in the back of my mind because since it's such a long journey, med school like happens in our lives, and there were a few times where I was like unsure, but towards the end of med school, I decided that I wanted to pursue that path. And at the same time, back then, we didn't have as much available tools online as we do today. So I didn't really know where to start. I didn't know we could like take the steps in the beginning of med searching for the whole process and everything. Back then, we didn't have ChatGPT. All we had was the Facebook group. So searching everything there, and I was like kind of lost. Where do I start? When should I start? So I decided to like during my last year of school, the during the clerkship, the final 2 years was when I started studying for step one, and 1 year later I took it. So that's how it works. How it
Okay,
worked.
great.
Yeah.
And why did you decide radiology? Like why do you like radiology specifically?
So both of my parents are radiologists.
Nice.
I
That's a good
basically
reason.
I basically grew up immersed in this environment here, and ever since I was a kid, I would see them like doing reading scans and getting excited all about it. And after I did my rotations in the US and started doing research, especially in the field of functional neuroimaging, that was when like I set in stone. I was like, I really want to do this. I really like it. And I was my parents. I was like, I really, really want to do this. I would easily see myself doing it for the rest of my life.
Nice. And it's so challenging, to match into radiology. And again, congratulations on this massive achievement. I want to go over the strengths of your application, how you built such a successful application for radiology. So let's start with step one. I presume you passed step one on the first attempt. Is that right? I presume you passed step one on the first attempt. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Um, I passed step one in my last year of med school, and I I actually waited some time before step two. I only started. A lot happened in my life, so I only started studying for step two one year, which was I was already graduated and I was working at the emergency department as a physician there, and that was in 2024. So started studying for step two. I had some first things going on and also health related issues. I was aiming for a higher score, but I ended up getting the competitive score, which is like above 250. I got 250, 252.
Okay.
So sometimes, since radiology is so competitive, we kind of want to like get the highest score possible. So even though it was a good score, I was still trying to be the best as I could in all the other aspects of my application to kind of like compensate for not so high score. And basically, that was during my studying for step two. I also took the meta analysis course, and I really love the course. I actually, after step two, I started my rotations in radiology in really good institutes, and I also took some research ideas to the mentors that I met throughout these rotations. And I think that was the starting point for my whole research journey with American mentors. And also afterwards, I went to like several conferences there, kept working on my rotations. I always kept my network alive. So let's say, one of my letters was from my first rotation with one attending that I published a case report with when I was there. And I mean, I kept my network with him, like kept connected throughout emails. I was always like updating everyone, all the mentors that I met throughout the rotations, throughout every. And I would always try to reconnect them with in person in the conferences. So it was it was a long time hyper focused on research, conferences, and also keeping my network alive. Even in Brazil most of the time.
Yeah, I want to show you one of your papers because I really want people to understand what the magnitude of what you did. So this is a first author publication by Beatriz in neuroradiology. This is functional MRI. Actually, Beatriz, can you explain to folks what is functional imaging? The area that you've done research in? What is exactly is that?
Yeah. So basically, there's some paradigms in MRI that you can actually see the networks and how they function. So there are some areas of the brain that they work at the same time together to do some to like when you talk, when you work memory related, and they work together, and that's called functional connectivity. They work at the same time to do some specific tasks. Something just structural is something functional, and our work is always focused on. This was my first work, which was related to language laterality. So basically, we wanted to see the concordance of task functional MRI with the previous um, gold standard for language lateralization. We wanted to see if it's as good as the gold standard, which is called WADA test
The water test.
for
Okay.
lateralization. Yeah, for lateralization, because the gold standard is kind of it's kind of funny. Not to say, but it's kind of not necessarily good because you inject amobarbital through the carotid, induces aphasia in the dominant hemisphere. So that's
Oh,
what surgeons used to do to find out which is the eloquent part of the brain and
that
avoid that when you're doing a neurosurgery.
that sounds barbaric.
Yeah. So imagine kids. So my
Yeah,
meta-analysis was on kids. Imagine kids having to do that when they have like a tumor or epileptic focus, and you want to avoid that specific region being
yeah,
damaged in a
yeah,
surgery.
yeah. It's impressive. So, guys, this was published in Neuroradiologist. This is one of the top journals in the field of neuroradiology. And again, I want to emphasize that Beatriz is first author. Now, Rafaela, who's also a co-author, she wrote in the chat here that Beatriz is the queen of networking. So I want to emphasize what Beatriz did. So the key here is that not only did she develop the idea and do the meta-analysis, the methods, the statistics as she learned in the Meta-Analysis Academy, but she also used this research and other projects to connect with people with whom she was rotating with in the United States. So this is a very clever strategy because it allows you to meet people, but also to stay in touch, as Beatriz said. So Beatriz, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think after you went back from these rotations, you kept collaborating with these attendings on different projects. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I actually had one strong research group, which was in collaboration with one of my primary. She was the one that I brought these ideas in functional MRI in the beginning of last year, and oh, I'm sorry. And we've been collaborating together since then. So we have regular meetings every week. So it never stops because she invited me to stay in her team, and the other researchers were actually in person. I was one that was still like doing it remotely. Of course, some of the researchers ended that time there and back to their countries as well and kept remotely. So basically, that's how our group worked. It started with just me and another researcher who's from India, and then we became really good friends. But we were basically making the most we could with her projects. She was a really, really amazing mentor. She really supported me, reached out to program directors as well. So she was really, really nice. And I think that was because we really committed to her project since the beginning of last year. As I said, I was working both on my primary systematic reviews and meta-analysis, which is the one you showed, while also working on her projects, which were focused on like comparing functional connectivity in neurodegenerative disease with healthy controls, which is like another kind of analysis, is a coordinate meta-analysis.
But
So I also need to learn that. It's
but
different.
but but I want to make sure I understand
It was
this.
published today, actually.
What's that?
It
What did
was
you say?
published today.
Today, every time I
Yeah.
talk to you, every time I talk to you, you say, I had one paper accepted today. You had a paper accepted on match day when we spoke, and you said, oh, it's match day, but I also had a paper accepted. And now we're doing this live stream, and you have another paper accepted. Every time I talk to you, you have a paper accepted. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure I understand this right. This paper that you did and this collaboration that you maintained for more than 1 year, it sounds like, it was initiated, it was started when you did a rotation in the United States and invited this mentor to be part of your meta analysis. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. You put it perfectly.
So this is what I tell students, everyone, in the Meta Analysis Academy. You go places, you invite people, you extend the opportunity for others to collaborate with you. And with that, you gain mentors, you gain connections. And Beatriz said this person who's been very kind and mentored her even called or made attempts to help Beatriz on her application for radiology. That's huge. That has so much value. That is incredible. So, really well done. And there's another component I want to emphasize, which is Beatrice's hard work and dedication to a complex topic. Like Beatrice had to learn about this stuff, like functional MRI. That doesn't sound easy to me. I'm sure it's not easy, but Beatrice did a really deep dive and really studied the concepts so that she could develop ideas, contribute meaningfully to this topic. Is that right, Beatrice?
Exactly. It was a lot of studying, a lot of hard work,
Tell
a
us
lot of
how
persistence.
tell us how you learned and how you studied and how you came up with ideas in the field of functional MRI.
So I before my rotation there, I was searching for her papers and like the other attendings I was going to shadow. I was looking for their papers on PubMed and trying to get more familiar with their main research focus, right? And I found out that functional neuroimaging was something that they were really focusing on, was we're doing a lot of research on. So that was when I decided that I wanted to do something in that area. So I started like mapping all the studies and getting pick questions and making like groups to see, okay, I have three studies for this. So is there meta-analysis on this? And then that was when I found out about language laterality and this specific research gap, task-based functional MRI for language laterality, which is being studied more recently. Because um the as I said, the pre gold standard was really invasive and really bad for the
Yeah.
patients.
Yeah, this WADA test sounds scary, like scary stuff. So, Beatrice, how important do you think that these publications and the connections were to your radiology match?
I honestly, it would never be possible without all of this because it works side by side, right? It goes hand in hand because um you do research. That's the way you can show someone how your work ethic and how much hard work, how much of a persistent person you are. So that's how you meet um attendings in the field. That's how you go to conferences and they can actually see how much you've been working on this interesting topics. So it was primary. It would never be possible without having having that background in systematic reviews and meta-analysis. It wouldn't be possible without it. It
So,
was like both of them, both the research and also the network built from it.
yes,
It's like a combo.
I agree. I'm going to read the comment by Dr. Carlos Macedo here. Carlos said, functional MRI is a complex subject, even for high level subspecialist radiologists. So, when I spoke to you about this, when you told me you were doing research in this area and you had built successful connections, I was really impressed, Beatriz, because the way you described this,
Appreciate it.
you realize that these folks in at Hopkins, at this major institution, that they were experts in this topic, and then you set out intentionally to study the topic and to find ideas and build research projects in this area. That is unbelievable. And guys, if you joined just now, I'm talking with Beatriz. She did this incredible work and other publications and matched into radiology at Emory. She was just telling us about how research and the connections that she built and the networking through publications, how that was important. So, Beatrice, as a result, would you recommend that people watching join the Meta Analysis Academy as well and they learn how to publish these papers? Would you recommend that?
100%. It was to me, it was like career changing because it was other way. Yeah.
Yeah. So Beatriz, guys, is a former student of the Meta-Analysis Academy, a brilliant student, and she matched into radiology without doing a dedicated research year in the United States. She did a lot of research, but she was at home in Brazil doing collaborations with folks internationally. Beatriz, what did it feel like when you got the news on Monday that you matched and on Friday that you had gone to Emory? How did that feel like, if you can describe it?
I even have a video of my reaction. Deep down, I was really hoping for it, but I couldn't believe when I saw it. I was like, it's like I envisioned that in my mind for so long, and when I saw on the computer screen, I was completely in shock. I was in shock. I was in shock. I was like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It was the best feeling ever. I'm still digesting everything. I'm so excited. It was like a dream institution for me. So I couldn't believe it. I'm still, yeah, really, really,
Yeah.
really excited. Really happy.
I'm so proud of you. I got so happy that you matched and that you matched really well. It really, it's a highlight of the year for me. One of the highlights of this year is your match. And by the way, everyone, there's 80 more students. We have more than 80 students from the Meta-Analysis Academy, including a student I just learned who matched into dermatology in the United States, general surgery, radiology, really, really competitive matches. This is a great question from Dr. Guimarães. Can you answer how did you approach this mentor? Like you were rotating as an observer and you invited
Yeah.
this person to your research project. How did you do that in a very practical manner?
So I remember I brought my two abstracts on two sheets, and then I basically told her we were chatting, and then I told her I learned how to do meta-analysis through this course, and I noticed that you've been publishing a lot on the topic on the field. So it was really natural. I mean, I don't know exactly the words. It was more than a year ago, but basically I was like, can I have 5 minutes? And then I brought my two paper sheets and I showed her. Would you like to be the senior author here? I would be really happy and excited. So I did this with two mentors.
Wow. Do you remember how
I
this
I keep things simple. I just
you
that's
just you
how
just
I'm
asked.
doing
You just asked. You
everything.
just
Everything was
you
like,
just
can I
yeah.
have 5 minutes? Can I do this? Can I have yeah, yeah.
Do you remember her reaction or their reaction?
Oh
How
yeah, definitely. That is what stuck to me more than how I asked, because I remember how I asked, but I remember she was like really impressed. She was like, oh my gosh, you actually about this research and stuff, but I didn't know you actually had the abstract and these ideas. These are like published, ready to publish. So we just have to write about it. She was really happy and excited. Yeah, and impressed.
That's incredible. And not only was she
Yeah,
impressed, but over the years, over the months to come, you've built on that relationship and you capitalize. You publish more
a lot,
papers and
a lot.
you strengthen that relationship. That's awesome. Beatrice, I want to ask you also about the connections you made with other meta-analysis academy students like Sarah, Druvy, and Rafa. Can you hear me? You logged out for a little bit. I want to ask you about the connections you've made with other Meta-Analysis Academy students like Sarah, Druvy, and Hafa. How has it been to work with these other colleagues you met inside the Meta-Analysis Academy?
I was honestly really lucky that I met them and really grateful because now they became close friends with me, and they work really well. Their work ethic is top notch. So it was really nice. It was really nice to meet such hardworking, competent people that really did everything fast, efficiently, and really well done. So it was really good to have the platform to build such great people.
Yeah. I mean, this is a superstar group. I mean, Rafaela, Dhruvi, and Sarah, and you. That's like a superstar team. It's like I don't know how that happened. That to make you guys four like work together. That's incredible. And I know
Yeah, but now they're close friends. We're such close friends now. We want to plan to like visit each other at conferences and everything.
that's
So
incredible.
it was amazing. Yeah.
That's incredible. So, guys, Dhruvi is from India, and then Rafa and Sarah are also from Brazil, like Beatriz, and they've done this incredible work together. Beatriz, there's this question from Dr. Alkan who said, in this group that you were all working on with the attending from the United States, this research group, were you the only student, or were you also in a group there with his or her mentees
So when I was doing that project, she was the senior author,
on your meta?
but my group was with someone else. So my group started with one of my friends. Now he's became friends with me. He was a research fellow there at Hopkins. Now he's in India, and it started with the three of us. But on parallel, I was doing that paper, and she was also the senior author. So we were doing things in parallel.
Got it. But then, as you did other projects with this attending, were you involved just like on one-on-one basis, or were there other people working in collaboration?
So the other projects, as I said, let's say the first 6 months of last year, it was three of us getting
Gotcha.
everything, me every week. It was just the three of us. And then another researchist joined, and she also invited us to other research groups. So basically, we were having those meetings a week for different projects with different groups. But with the three of us, my mentor, my friend from India, because he was a research fellow there.
Got it. Understood now. So
Yeah.
this is again, if you guys joined just now, this is Beatrice sharing her story for a successful match in radiology and how she used meta-analysis, her own ideas, her projects to build relationships, build networking and collaboration, and strengthen her application. And she ultimately matched in radiology at Emory, a major, major academic program. So Beatrice, before we finish, and again, thank you so much for sharing your story. What do you like to do for your free time when you're not publishing meta-analysis and studying for steps? And how do you? What are some of your hobbies, and what do you like to do on your free time?
I love music. I play guitar, so
Wow.
it's what I do to like decompress a bit when I'm stressed, and I've always loved it. I love music, and also petting my dogs for such a long time. I would stay easily 1 hour just petting them. I have two Maltese dogs, and they're the best. They're the
Are
sweetest.
you gonna take the dogs to
Yeah,
Atlanta?
I used to CrossFit, but I need to return. Yeah, I used to love it. I got injured, had to stop, but I'm planning to return.
To what sport you said? Which sport? You said return to what?
You hear me?
Yes, which return?
CrossFit.
CrossFit. Got it. Very good. Very good. Are
Yeah.
you gonna take the dogs to Atlanta?
I'm thinking about it. I want to. I really, I have to. Well, I did one of my rotations there, and I was all the time. Cause there's the young. He's 3 years old, and then
Mhm.
his grandfather is the other dog, and he's
Oh wow.
13. I'm really worried because the oldest may not be able to get into the plane and stand the whole trip to
Yeah.
Atlanta. But
Yeah.
when I was there in my rotation, I was all the time thinking, "Yo, the youngest one is called Pierre." I was like, Pierre, he needs to walk through these woods. He was gonna love. He would love this. I was all the time thinking,
That's so funny. Beatrice,
yeah.
congratulations on your match, and thank you for sharing your story. I'm a huge fan Congratulations, and I'm really excited for the next steps in your career. You let me know when you're in Boston for a conference, and I'd love to meet you in person as well. Okay?
Definitely love it too. Thank you so much for having me here. It was awesome. Thank you.
All right, everyone. So
I appreciate the
that's the beautiful story of Beatriz Macedo. She matched into radiology at Emory with multiple publications, strong connections without doing a research fellow because she joined the Meta Analysis Academy, and so should you. Join our wait list, and I hope to see you in the next edition of our program. Thank you so much, Beatriz. Have a good night. Bye bye.
nice. Good night, everyone.